All right, everybody. Hello. And today I get the absolute pleasure of reconnecting and interviewing with my improv professor from college who basically taught me everything that I know. And if you've seen any of my shows and you like what I do, this is the person that I credit hands down. So, Maha,
Yeah. Hey,
welcome to the
hi.
Shadowcasters Network.
Thank you for having me. This is awesome.
Absolutely. So I want to lay out the differences between tabletop and stage improv, because I think when a lot of people see stage improv, it can be very scary. Like there's
Yeah.
always that, like, I can't do that,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But you can. And especially in tabletop, it's
Absolutely.
so easy because you have a working knowledge when you come into it, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have a knowledge of who you are. You've had a chance to think about it. You've had a
Mm-hmm.
chance to know about the world. But outside of all of that, so much of what happens between players
Yeah.
and even between the players and the GM who has to play like all of these different characters is
Right.
improv. And even if the GM is like super prepared and they know exactly what the sequence of events are going to be, it's not going to happen that way. And
It's
usually what ends up,
always random. Yeah.
yeah, GM provides a scenario and then the players react, then the GM
Mm-hmm.
has to react,
Mm-hmm.
players react. Like it's reaction building on top of each other. So how does somebody who has no improv skill whatsoever and is maybe even intimidated by it get started and building that confidence in themselves?
So the first lesson that we always teach when we're teaching improv is the idea of yes and. So not only are you saying yes to the suggestion that someone gives you, you're saying and you're building on top of that idea. So the reason that you need to say yes, which may feel um, like it's just if we're all saying yes to each other, then there's no conflict, right? And especially in in a tabletop game, there's always some type of quest that we're on. We're fighting for something, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what happens is that as actors, when we're trained actors, our idea is to find the conflict and identify that and play with that. So we constantly want to instinctively say no. And
Mm-hmm.
what happens is with improvisation, as soon as you say yes, as soon as someone gives a gift, as we say, makes a suggestion to you, by saying yes, validating,
Mm-hmm.
I can't talk, validating what they're actually giving us. And the and just allows us to be even more creative and build on top of that, so that we're constantly working together to further story. And we're not worried about what's going to be right or what's going to be wrong. We can't worry about right or wrong. We can only worry about being in the moment that we're in.
Mm-hmm.
But we have to build a world around us. Um, and you already have a lot in your hand when you're coming into a game, because just like you said, you're thinking about your character. You've developed your character. There's a background to it. So you have even more tools than your average improv actor has when they walk on stage, because you're already saying, I know who I am, and I just have to stick to who I am. So it's a
Mm-hmm.
matter of understanding how the different personality types, different character types are all going to go on this quest together. So if I say, and forgive me because I just started learning about tabletop gaming in terms of what the full world is just about a year ago, not even a year ago.
Yeah.
Like I
Well,
want to say like
welcome.
maybe, thank you. I actually am fascinated by this. And I have yet to play a game, but I've been doing a lot of research and reading about it. So if my rogue elf is doing something and they see a raven flying and they're like, oh, look at that raven. Now we have established that there is a raven in this world. And so I need to say yes to that. I
Mm-hmm.
can then my and can make the raven do anything. So maybe I wasn't really excited about this raven, but it has been established. So I need to agree to what's been established, but then I can add on my own little spice if I want to, as long as it's not going to negate what was already suggested. So we're constantly adding on rooms to our house. And as soon as the room is added, it's not like I can say that room isn't there. I'm never going to
Mm-hmm.
go into that room. The room exists. We've established it. So
Mm-hmm.
as soon as it's there, the only way it can go away is if somebody destroys it, right? It's like when you're playing
Right.
cops and robbers, when you're a little kid, and if the robber gets away, the cop can't then just be like, oh, I got you. No, the robber got away. That's what just happened.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think just giving yourself the idea that everyone's going to agree to you, you're going to agree to everyone, You're all going to be supporting each other. And that sometimes feels like, how are we going to have fun doing that? But just in the camaraderie of we're supporting each other, that's where all of the big ideas usually will start to come out, because we're doing it together, and that's when we start to have fun.
It's easy sometimes, I think, to also get in your head and second guess yourself and be like, is what I'm doing good enough or appropriate, or I need to think of something else. And then you kind of like get in this like, everyone's staring at me and I haven't thought of something else. Think of something else. Oh no, the only thing I have is that thing I thought about that I don't like.
Yeah.
How do we overcome that struggle? How do we just be comfortable with expressing the things that come in our head?
Well, you got to trust, first and foremost, that everyone's going to come to your aid. So it goes right back to what we were talking about before, support. If I'm in the game with you and I'm playing at the highest level of my intelligence, you're playing at the highest level of your intelligence, everybody is, and that's the only way the game can be the most fun, right? We don't want to dumb down anything that we're doing, but something may come out of our mouth that we're not 100% behind. I've got to trust that my fellow players will have my back and will give me something to make that either more glittery, right? Give it wings, or we'll see that I'm stuck and will help me try to figure a way back to where we started. So that's just in terms of I can trust the group to have my back. In terms of what my suggestions are doing to me psychologically, you have to understand that no matter what you say, you are coming into this game, and that's why I'm saying you have to play to the highest level of your intelligence always. You are coming into this game with all of the skills of a poet, an artist, a scholar, and you should never doubt that. And you're going to give all of your fellow game players that same power. And so then if something comes out of your mouth, it was meant to come out of your mouth, and why question it? Because you can't snatch it back.
Yeah, I think it's important for people to not feel that pressure that everything that comes out of your mouth has to be a zinger, a golden line, right? It can't.
It can't.
And it gives an opportunity for somebody else to make it good. And then for you to bounce off of that and be like, I have something even better to top that.
And this is a great way to bring up the idea of third thought, right? This is something I talk about all the time in improv classes. And this is not my own idea. So I did not come up with this. This is just what exists in the improv world. But this idea of third thought being that the first thought, your knee-jerk reaction to something, is just the knee-jerk reaction, right? It may be the safe answer to come out of your mouth, or it may be the unfiltered answer. But that's your first thought. Your second thought is usually the one where you're trying to be very clever, where you're trying to be special, and you want to show off. And you're like, my choices. And we want to throw that away, because that's not about story. That's not about what's happening. So we rely on that third thought, the one that we usually would never allow ourselves to get to. This also may be the unfiltered one, but it's the instinctive answer. It's the natural response to me taking in what's going on and saying, here's what I think is about to happen. And it takes a certain amount of trust with yourself and with the people that you're playing with to play with third thought. But you must. And don't worry about, as you're starting to work with that concept, if the first things that come out of your mouth are always first or second thought. Because eventually you'll get to that third thought. It's a baseball. No, it's a frying pan. No, it's a porcupine. So I'm going to say yes to porcupine. Where is that going to go? Nobody knows. And that's where the fun happens. Don't try to take it somewhere. Don't second guess. Just live and roll in that moment. And then magic happens. Yeah. And it's exactly what you're saying. It's just giving yourself permission to play with those ideas. Just giving yourself permission to say, I know she just said a few minutes ago, I'm a poet, I'm an artist, I'm a scholar. I know, but right now what I just said was garbage, but that's okay. Every artist starts with that first little stroke, on the canvas, and then we end up with a Picasso, right? So
that everyone contributes to.
Everyone contributes to. It's just going to be one big mural of ideas. But that little thing that you said is never garbage, because it's going to spark everyone else's ideas, and they're going to start thinking how to support what you just said, and then we just build on top of that. So it's never, ever, ever wrong. Not everything is a climax, right? Not everything can be. We build towards it, If we're just going to pick apples for a little bit of time, that's okay. We're going to find out more about our characters as we're doing that. We're going to find out more about where we are, our environment. So this is also just a matter of taking the time to listen, right? To pay attention, to see, well, maybe I don't need the support. Maybe I just need to offer support right now. And so you're just going to say the bland thing that just helps your fellow player establish something else. So it's easy. I say this as an improv teacher, so I'm like, it's so easy. But it's easy. It's easy when you're not feeling exactly like you're saying. You're not feeling the weight of carrying the entire game on your shoulders. You can't do it. If that were true, then why would you need a whole group of people to play with, right?
Oh, that is deep, good wisdom. It's
right?
so clean. It's so cleanly perfect. It's so well said.
But that's the thing. You're playing as a team for a reason, and so the team has to work together, and the team has to trust that the team is going to be there for them. If your goal is to just blast everyone, if your goal is to be the cleverest, is to steal all the thunder, all of the focus, that is where you start to make mistakes, because then you've pulled yourself out of the group mind. You've pulled yourself away from building, and you're just standing back, just like, well, why isn't everybody doing what I said? I just said this.
And then that pulls everybody else out too, because now they're like, we have to deal with you.
Yeah.
Like,
we constantly have to stop to do this. Yeah. So don't be that person. Don't be that person. I know it may feel good for you, but it's not. You should be able to look at everybody's eyes, feel the energy of the group, and say, I'm not playing along. I need to step back and just listen for a while, and then support. Yeah.
Support is the name of the game. So.
I mean, literally, I can't get away from it. The biggest thing that I do when I'm teaching improv is that I'm always just like, well, what is the group doing? Sacrifice your brilliance sometimes to support the group. Because if you support the group, you always win. You're always teaming up together to do something. You're never going to be on the outskirts. It's hard. Yeah. It's hard, but then it becomes
But it's also
nature.
easy, right? Because you get to focus on responding to someone, and like,
yeah,
you have a goal with that other person, like what you want to tell them and how you want to make them feel.
Yeah.
And because you have that goal, whatever characterization you have just kind of filters through it naturally.
Always.
Right?
Always.
You don't have to think about, how do I respond to you in character? You just you just do. And
I think that's brilliant, because exactly that's where we're going. We're taking that overall objective, and then we're saying, how can everybody else help me get to my objective? I'm not solely pursuing my objective by myself. I'm saying, hey, friends, can you help me do this? If you help me move out of my apartment, I'll help you move out of your apartment later on, right? And that's what relationships are like. That's how you get to these month-long and year-long games, because we do it with relationships, not only with ideas. Yeah.
Yep. So then, speaking of character, because I have a question from a friend, what are some ways to prepare yourself for tapping into a character that you're about to play right before a game in order to be able to react authentically?
I always start with character in terms of what's their overall goal. Why are they fighting? Why are they struggling through life right now? What's making that struggle worthy? And I think of that in terms of the immediate, and then I think of that in terms of long term, right? So what motivates them? What's their goal? And in acting terms, we say, what's your objective, right? What's your super objective? And allowing that to be something that they could lose. It's not a guarantee that they can have it. So there's risk involved, which means that they're going to need to give everything that they possibly can of themselves. And so you have to know what your character's strengths and weaknesses are. Are they extremely strong? Are they extremely intelligent? These are going to be the obvious things that always come up that you're going to be able to rely on. But thinking about how their weaknesses play into that makes them three-dimensional. They're not just the hero or the villain. They're a complicated character. So that complication comes from the contradictions within their own personality, right? They may be extremely outgoing on the surface, but inside they feel very, very unworthy, right? And then sooner or later, that's going to rear its ugly head when now they have to be in charge of the group and they feel like they can't live up to it. And so now they start making mistakes. And everyone's like, why are you making mistakes? You've been so confident all this time. They're going to have to own up to, this is why I'm making mistakes. I need your help, right? Or this is why I'm making mistakes. I can't do it. I have to tell you guys I can't do it. I don't ever think a character ever wants to admit that they might fail. But I know I would love to, and again, this is my ignorance with how games go. So if I'm saying something that never happens, forgive me. But I would love to be in a game where we're all doing something and I turn and someone's supposed to go and like kill this monster and they just are like stuck in fear. Because now that makes that world real for me because I have to start thinking about what can I do. And this is why I'm saying I'm fascinated by the idea of tabletop gaming because as I have learned, some of these games, and I'm a little bit more focused on D&D because that's how I started learning about this. Some of these games can go for weeks, for months, for years with that group. You're not going to remember if you've been playing for 8 months. You may not remember what happened 2 months ago, but somebody in that game does, and they're going to call it back. And you are okay if you have no idea what they're talking about because that's just real life. So you can ask a question. You can always ask questions in improv, but it's always about furthering story, right? So don't feel like everyone's talking about this thing and I have no idea what's going on. Just say, I have no idea what's going on. What are you all talking about?
Yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah.
You won't look stupid.
And one of the great things about tabletop that makes it easier than stage is that you can take notes. Right? You don't get that luxury when you're on stage.
No.
You have to remember everything. And like you have to keep like a little catalog of things that are going on that you can harp on so that you can. But with notes, like when something funny happens at the table and you're like, I don't know, I want to comment on this at some point, you just write it down. Like that's what I always do. I just write down a whole bunch of weird little things.
So do you have like a little game journal that you keep? And do you have different ones for different games?
Yeah.
Or do you just keep? Yeah.
So I have a binder, right? And I have like dividers. So like each game I have like a bunch of loose leaf paper in there. And then like,
I'm loving this. Yeah.
Each session I do, like I have my session 1 underline, right? And then I'll like everything that I can possibly write down about what's going on. I'll jot it all down. And then I'll put the next page on top for the next session. So like all of the old sessions go towards the back, but I can always flip to them if I need to get to them. That's
perfect. So even more so, you are so much more able to contribute to the story and keep up with it because you're saying, well, this one time that we saw this one monster, this is what we did. But now we've come back and met the same monster, you know, way, way long ago, from way, way long ago. I remember that this is how we beat them. And then you could just bring that back in and look like the hero of the story because you were keeping track of that. Maybe no one else wrote that down, right? But you were just like, I got you.
All right. This was fantastic. And I hope that everybody who is watching has learned something. Thank you, Maha.
Thank you, Oscar.
Phenomenal. I'm so happy to reconnect with you.
See? Glad you're doing okay and everything's going well and that you got your podcast going. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If you have any other questions about improv, put it in the comments below and we shall see you soon.
Yay. Bye. Thanks, guys.
Bye.